Guns and shooters allow you to keep your enemies a fair distance away while you thin out the crowd, but what if you wanted to get in close and personal with nothing but your hands? Today I'll be answering the question of, can you beat Fallout 3 using only your fists? Let's find out. I get born and create the ideal human for a fist-only run. My dad tries to cage me, but I break free and set my stats. Unarmed damage in this game is calculated weird. I would have thought it was max strength, but apparently you max out endurance and luck. But more hit points and more resources is always welcome in the Wasteland. I set the rest of my stats and then try to parkour my way around the room, but Dad yells at me and we age to 10 years old at my birthday party. It's a normal party, making small talk with people I'd never talked to outside of this environment, watching my birthday cake get destroyed, and asserting my dominance on the partygoers. An old lady gives me a backup cake and then Butch the local bully tries to fight me. I get stuck on a table as the cops come to yell at Butch, and then my dad says him and his friend have a surprise for me in the basement. I hope it's something I can use in the future. But it's not. It's a BB gun, and now I have to shoot targets. Now, normally this is where I would say the run isn't possible, but as this isn't an enemy, and it's not doing damage, I'll let this one slide. I fist fight my dad because he gave me a shitty present and then take out his assistant, but seeing a radroach crawl out of the corner, I use my powers of teleportation to stomp it into the ground, and using my dad as an anchor point, I teleport back to reality. The run is still good. We travel in time to the age of 16 and I'm told I have to go take a placement quiz. On the way over I see Butch with his groupies and start bullying him. Try to get my sweet roll now, you jerk. I completely breeze through the quiz. I'm allowed to tag my skills, so I picked unarmed for damage and medicine because we're gonna need those a lot. I picked speech as a throwaway, but it's more of a last resort. I head back home and then we jump into the future again. We're 19 now, and Amada wakes me up to say that my dad ran away and the rest of the vault is in chaos. She tries to talk to me, but my fist hunger and must be sated. I start making my way out of the vault, but a guard tries to stop me. I quickly punch him out and steal his clothes. You know, normal vault dweller stuff. I continue searching for the exit and come across Butch asking me to save his mom. If only he knew what a mistake that was. I find his mom being attacked by some radroaches, but instead of helping, I join in. She makes a run for it, but meets the same end that her son meets soon after. I keep on my search and finally find the Overseer and his bodyguard. After showing them my fists, I find a password that allows me to open up a secret pathway to the vault door. A hop and a skip later, and I emerge into the Wasteland. I head over to Megaton, being the biggest eyesore ever, and talk to the Sheriff Lucas Sims. He's pretty unhelpful, and so I'm left to search for anyone that can point me in the right direction of my dad. Luckily, after walking around, I find Moriarty's saloon. I talk to a zombie and he says that Moriarty may know where my dad went. Upon talking to him, he says that this info is going to cost me and charges 100 caps. Having just emerged from my subterranean sanctuary, I have no idea how currency works. I went and sold some stuff and came back for the info, but this con man said the price had tripled because the info was too valuable to just let go. I decline and think over my options and wait for Moriarty to go into the back room where I ambush him. I hacked into his files on his computer and found out that my dad went to pursue a career in radio. I have to fight off some angry bar patrons at taking out their boss, but once outside no one seems to have an issue with me, so I leave without turning the town into a gravesite. Along the way we fight off some bandits, get a new set of gear from a Talon Merc, and try our hand at fighting super mutants. It's tough. Up until this point I didn't really have to use healing items, but these enemies served me a slice of humble pie, and my resources were starting to dwindle by the time I got to the subway tunnel systems. Inside are some mole rats that lure me into a false sense of security, because the next enemy in the tunnels are 4 ghouls. I try and fight them all at the same time, and at first it looks like I'm winning, but the roamer among them quickly puts me in my place along with his comrades. I try again, but instead of fighting, I run. Past the ghouls, past the super mutants, and I don't stop running until I make it outside. I run into some Brotherhood of Steel members and follow them through the area as they clear out the remaining super mutant forces. There's explosions, shootouts, and tons of desperately searching for healing items. It's a struggle, but I quickly get a taste for pocket meat found on super mutants. We do finally make it to Galaxy News Radio, where my dad was saying to be heading, but then a behemoth attacks the Brotherhood members, and after watching them get crumpled under one melee attack from this thing, I keep my distance and let the soldiers earn their retirement fund. After dealing with the kaiju outside, I head inside to meet with Three Dog. He tells me that he does in fact know about my dad and even knows where he is, but like Moriarty, this is going to cost me. It involves doing a task or paying for it. Three Dog tells me that if I go steal a new satellite dish and fix the GNR signal, he will let me in on the deets. After taking a nap, I head back out to put my repair skills to the test. After making my way through some tunnels to get around some rubble, I start to get more confident in my Fists of Fury as I'm able to tank most hits and enemies start to go down a little faster. Ah yes, the feeling of progress. But that feeling is thrown out the window as a turret starts to fire, and with no way to defend myself, I run for it. After fighting more raiders, I finally make it back outside and I'm near a museum that's supposed to have the satellite dish I'm chasing. But this museum is where I start to have issues. With low health and limited supplies, I head in. On one hand, I'm able to fight super mutants and make my way through the museum, but on the other hand, the longer I'm in here, the less health I have, as the hunting rifle they use may be inaccurate, but it does a fair bit of damage. After navigating through the many halls and up and down staircases, I do finally find the dish, but even as I find it, getting it out of here proves to be difficult. Through my travels, I found a stealth boy, so once grabbing the dish, I try and sneak out, but these super mutants can see invisible entities and quickly smite me down. This goes on for a fair while until they get bored of looking for me and I finally make my way back outside, with only a handful of life left. I head over to the Washington Monument, take an elevator up and fix the radio signal. Once done, I whisk through space and time back to GNR and wake Three Dog up from his nap. He tells me that my dad is in Rivet City and that I'll have to take more subway tunnels to get to him. Just my luck. Rivet City looks ages away on the map, so I expect a long journey. I head back to the Washington Monument, being the closest location, and I get shot at by super mutants. But luckily there's some Brotherhood members who try to help, but the super mutants show them who runs the neighborhood, and I make a run for it. Back in the subway tunnels, we get gunned down by some raiders, but with our limited supplies, we finally make it to a bed to full heal. Don't ask me why sleeping for an hour heals all your wounds. I didn't make this. But then something crazy happens. We make it out of the tunnels and appear right in front of Rivet City. I swear this took me longer the last time I played, but I'll take any help I can get. I navigate through the city to the marketplace to offload all the useless stuff I've been carrying and stock up on Simpacks. But after my shopping spree, I head to the science lab to find Dr. Lee, who tells me that my dad isn't here but in another castle. I'm beginning to sense a pattern here. She doesn't know the exact location, but says I might find some info over at the Jefferson Museum. I have to clear through a ton of super mutants, but I do eventually find some holotapes, giving me a new destination to head to. I know I'm supposed to be finding my dad, but this guy really seems like he doesn't want to be found. I mean, this man sounds like he literally ran all over the wasteland and made sure to leave the craziest trail. Maybe he's dodging his taxes. On my way to find the tax evader, I come across a person being set on fire and being chased by a raider. I'm not being attacked, so I leave it alone, but seconds later an explosion goes off. I don't know what happened, but I'm not sticking around to find out. Moving on, I come across a raider base. I don't remember this place, but my quest has to be here, right? Heading inside, I fight off a raider, and then I hear the scariest gun noise ever, as someone runs around the corner with a 44 and kills the shit out of me. I do manage to introduce her to my fists a moment later and get a nap in, but heading outside, I realize I'm so far away from my actual quest. Fists start flying, bullets get shot, and then I walk through a minefield, but somehow survive. Taking the long way around, I start to head in the right direction, but I do come across the flamethrower raider from earlier. A short hike later, I make it to Casey's garage, but in trying to find the door, I'm nuked. Then the grim reality sets in that I didn't quick save. Well, I guess it's back to fighting the raiders again. Making it back to Casey's garage, I hurry inside and have to fight some rad roaches and mole rats before I find a hidden underground vault entrance. A robot greets me, tells me to change, and then I hop into a pod for a simulation. This sounds weird, but if it helps me find my dad, I guess I'll play along. A moment later, and I'm whisked into the world of Tranquility Lane. Tranquility Lane seems to be picture perfect, 60s lingo and a gray overtone with cheery music. I hate it here. I talk to some girl named Betty and she tells me that she does know where my dad is, but first I have to go make some kid cry. I slap him for not paying his income tax on his lemonade stand, but then Betty says I have to do more random shit. I confront Betty, but Betty turns out to be God in disguise and blows me up. The simulation reloads and I start searching through the houses trying to find my dad. I come across an abandoned house and after doing some Scooby-Doo shenanigans, I find a hidden computer terminal that allows me to use a Chinese invasion protocol. Nothing happens inside, so I head outside to see the citizens of Tranquility Lane. Only instead of the happy place that was outside mere seconds ago, the townsfolk are now being mowed down by an invasion of Chinese communists. After watching the massacre, a door opens up and once I head through, the simulation ends and I'm face to face with my dad. He tells me we have to return to Rivet City and immediately runs off. This man refuses to stay put. Instead of following my dad, I use my powers of teleportation and I arrive at Rivet City the same time my dad does. This man is literally a walking legend. He has a chit chat with a scientist while I steal a bobblehead, then informs me that I have to clear out the Jefferson Memorial so the rest of his scientist gang can turn on a water purifier. After finding the last remaining super mutants, the scientists waltz in like they own the place and then set up shop. I'm informed that I'm going to be performing some running around for my dad and his gang. Perfect. These quests are straight up dumb. I run to a water pump and turn it on, then I have to run back to my dad and grab some fuses to run back down and change them out. Then as if that wasn't enough, I have to then go turn on the mainframe power. But the best interaction between an NPC occurred here. I came across someone named Garza. He's standing in a corner staring at some vodka. But after seeing he wants it, I take it, and then he proceeds to take some canned food off the bottom shelf and eat it behind me. Never change, Garza. You do you, boo. I head into a service pipe to turn on a valve and then the rival gang shows up, the Enclave. I make my way back up and have to fight some of the Enclave soldiers, and by this point my fist damage is pretty decent. I'm able to get up close, causing the enemy to miss their shots and punch them straight to sleep. I make it back to my dad, but seeing he's being interrogated, I just have to watch. The IRS has finally caught my dad. In a last-ditch effort, my dad hits the kill switch and takes out the IRS and himself. Dr. Lee comes up to tell me that we have to leave, but I also have to safeguard my dad's gang. I am the gang leader now. I lead my new homies through some sewers and fight some ghouls when Dr. Lee informs me that Garza has a heart condition that if it goes untreated could die. I decide to help out my new friend and give him some sim packs, only for this man to get greedy and take 5. I'm going to need those later. Eventually we meet up with some Brotherhood soldiers and watch as they kill tons of ghouls. And then heading outside, Dr. Lee insults someone's mother and gets us access into the Citadel, the Brotherhood of Steel Stronghold. We talk to Elder Lions and Little Lions, and then the greatest thing happens. We get trained in power armor. There's even a set of armor laying on a table for me to take. I'm finally moving up in the world. After feeling like a hero, I'm reminded that I have to continue on with the story. I talk with Scribe Rothschild and he tells me to get some info on a Gek that we'll be needing later. I search the contents of a terminal and yep, sure enough, the info is in there. After learning the location, I make a long hike towards Little Lamplight. But on the way there, I find some super mutants killing some Brahmin and quickly lay down the law. Super mutants of the land be warned. Arriving in Little Lamplight, I get yelled at by Mayor McCready for being an adult, but I strike a deal with him that if I free some of his captured comrades, he'll let me through to the vault entrance under Little Lamplight. After a long hike later, I have to fistfight 3 Yao Guai. At this point, I'm feeling good. I'm on normal difficulty and killing tough enemies. I'll take it. I do finally make it to Paradise Falls, and the guard at the front tells me I'm not allowed in unless I pay. The last person to say that got beat to death in a back room of a pub, so I let my fist fly. Plus he's a slaver, so this is all perfectly fine. What happens next is the biggest fight I think I've had yet. There's a Gatling gun, tons of enemies and explosions, but my fists are holding up and the power armor is soaking a ton of damage. One insane battle later and I find the captured kids and break them out of jail. We make a mad dash for Little Lamplight, and by dash I mean teleport, and I head to Mayor McCready to have him show me where the entrance to the vault is. He got a princess to open the gate, and now I was on my own from this point forward, not knowing what was in store. I navigated some caves and now my fists were doing decent damage. I was unstoppable. Or at least I thought I was until I went to check a computer terminal and got blown to smithereens. Retracing my steps, I found out someone had set a booby trap for cave dwellers. I couldn't deactivate it, but I'm pretty sure no one else will run into that later. I finally made it into the vault, and after leveling up my fists, I was knocking people out. This helped me out so much, as now I could just wail on super mutants with little concern. But little did I know that this place was cursed. I got into a tumble with a super mutant brute and did the usual smack them until they fall down routine, but I must have channeled too much chakra into my 8 trigram 64 palm technique because the brute began spazzing out. I must have hit too many pressure points. Continuing into the Tomb of Horrors, I started to come across failed experiments, but as I started to inspect rooms, one started waving at me. Maybe this place wasn't so bad. I ran across a super mutant that tried to trick me into releasing him so he could grab the Gek for me, but I've come this far with my hands and I don't plan on stopping now. So I left him behind as I continued my search. Maybe one day I'll let him out. Eventually I found a ton of radiation and figured I had to be in the right spot, so I dosed up on ketamine and made a run for it. Either I was gonna die to a heart attack or the radiation, but either way I could say I had lived. I found the Gek and after waiting for the slowest opening animation, grabbed my prize and headed towards the exit, only to be ambushed by the IRS again and be taken prisoner. I awoke to being interrogated, but I didn't snitch on my homies. God came over the intercom and told me he wanted to meet with me in person and that the whole base would just let me waltz through the place. But I guess that was a lie, because moments later I was punching out Enclave soldiers who shot at me first. I fought my way to God, and after a long conversation, he came to realize that he was the true bad guy all along. He gave me a head start to leave and continue my good guy shenanigans, but set the base to self-destruct. I hope Enclave armor gives you guys a speed boost, because you're gonna need it. Channeling my inner blue hedgehog, I sped through the base dodging soldiers and explosions alike, only to make it outside and watch the fireworks. Almost like it was scripted to happen this way. I returned to my Brotherhood comrades and filled them in on my capture. They then informed me that the IRS was moving in to take the water purifier at the Jefferson Memorial to offset my father's missed payments. Lady Lyons informed me that we couldn't allow this, so we activated Optimus Prime to help us thin out the herd. Honestly, if I was the Enclave and saw a robot capable of this size and destruction, I'd bail out. Honestly, how do you expect to fight this, guys? He's literally blowing up your escape ships. After clearing a path for the final assault to control the wasteland, I headed inside with Lady Lyons. Using her as bait, I ran for the final door, and then somehow Colonel Autumn was here. This man had survived 3 assassination attempts, but was no match for Lyons and her Gatling gun. With the hostiles gone, all that was left was to activate the water purifier. Only issue is whoever turned it on wouldn't come back. At first I told Lyons to do it as I didn't want to die, but then changed my mind. I had gotten this far with my hands and I wasn't backing out now. She yelled at me and then I turned on the purifier and beat Fallout 3. At first this run was pretty rough, but once you get decent armor and get your unarmed skill above 70, the damage is decent. Plus, you can knock out enemies and get easy kills. If you have any suggestions for a challenge, make sure to tell me in the comments. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.